I just saw a brand new Indiana Jones movie. It's not often one gets to say that. Now, in case you didn't know, I do have videos on the 4 Indiana Jones films leading up to this one. So if you want to learn my thoughts on the entire series, well, now you can. Now, without any further ado, let's get into this review because I am Indiana Jones. I look so ridiculous in this hat. It's the hair, right? I'm gonna take this off. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the brand new 5th Indiana Jones movie. It's directed by James Mangold, the director of Logan and Ford v Ferrari, and the upcoming Swamp Thing movie. So, the year is 1969. Henry Jones Jr., Indiana Jones, is retiring from being a professor when he's approached by his goddaughter, Helena Shaw, who says, "Hey, there's this treasure, this artifact that you know my father searched for. I got a lead on it, so let's go find it." And so they embark, racing against former Nazi scientist Dr. Jürgen Voller, who lost to Indy back in the days of the war, and now he wants his revenge. And so our adventure ensues. Now, I know this movie's gotten some mixed reactions. Some people like it, some people hate it. I don't think anyone really loves it. I, for one, am kind of caught in the middle on this one. In my opinion, it is far better than Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, while at the same time being nowhere near as good as any of the films in the original Indiana Jones trilogy. Well, except for maybe Temple of Doom, because I'm honestly not a huge fan of that one. So there's your metric for my opinions. I mean, I always love seeing Harrison Ford on the big screen, because the man is just an icon at this point, you know? He's a staple of American cinema, he really is. But Indiana Jones in this movie, yeah, he's a bit older and therefore he is a bit grumpier. That's just Harrison Ford on screen, not even knowing he's being filmed at this point. Like, isn't that usually how Harrison Ford just behaves these days? I remember seeing a video of someone asking him to sign their Lego Millennium Falcon, and he just drops it. He's like, whoops. Yeah, that's just Harrison Ford for you. That kind of translates into Indiana Jones in this film. I mean, he does have a story-based reason for being this way, but I guess that just goes to show, like, why would we want to see that? I think I'd rather just see a character in their prime, you know? Otherwise known as his days in the original trilogy. I mean, no disrespect to Mr. Ford, of course. He is still a great actor. I just can't really help but feel that this film did the character of Indiana Jones kind of dirty. That's all I'm saying, really. Now, his goddaughter, Helena Shaw, is played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and I won't say she carries this movie, because it really is her and Indy who do that, but she does have a couple of moments where she takes the spotlight and she shines. Impressively so, even. I actually ended up really liking her as a character. She is, in her own words, smart and resourceful. That being said, she can't always be trusted, because she is kind of a femme fatale type, which I actually thought was pretty cool. And I liked the chemistry between these two characters. I didn't really think their dialogue was that bad. The shifting dynamic between these two I actually thought was one of the better parts of this film. But then on their adventure, they bring along this kid named Teddy, played by Ethan Isidore, and he wasn't really advertised in a lot of the marketing, but he is part of this whole adventure. He is on Team Indy. He is in the movie for a good chunk of it. And not only did I find him annoying, but also kinda useless. Throughout most of his scenes in the movie, I was like, why are you here again? I mean, sure, he does help out in a couple of scenes, but for the most part, he was just about as useless as Willie was in the second movie, Temple of Doom. Yeah, he was about that bad, at least in my opinion. And then there is the villain of the film, Dr. Jürgen Voller, played by Mads Mikkelsen, of course. We need a bad Nazi villain in an Indiana Jones movie. Who do we got right now? Oh, Mads Mikkelsen. Perfect casting. But the thing is, he pretty much just plays Mads Mikkelsen in this movie. He plays Grindelwald. He plays, I don't know, what was the villain's name in Casino Royale again? But he plays him. Yeah, just Mads Mikkelsen as a villain in a movie is starting to become very one note. He did what he needed to do for the sake of the movie's story, but he just was not interesting at all, really. I didn't care about him, I didn't care about his crew, he didn't impress me. Which is a bummer, because he's Mads Mikkelsen, we all know that he's a great actor. So it's not even his fault, it is the writing, as per usual in cases like this. Now at first, when the movie is starting out, you've heard about this by now, it starts with a prologue set in 1944, starring a de-aged Harrison Ford as a younger Indiana Jones, kinda sorta harkening back to the beginning of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And while the action was going down, it was fun to watch, but just in my opinion, the de-aging on Harrison Ford didn't look that good. Now, I could definitely tell that they were using some sort of CG technology, which you would think, yeah, because they are, but you shouldn't be able to tell, you know what I mean? De-aging's supposed to look real, this did not. No, his face looked kind of weird, like it was made of rubber or something, then you cut to a shot of someone else, and yeah, that's a perfectly normal looking human being. Then it cuts back to Harrison Ford and you're like, fake face. Or at least that's what my mind was doing. And I say this to say that that's really how the visual effects are for most of the movie then on. The action scenes in this movie are fun to watch. They really are. When shit's going down, it is going down. But then I couldn't help but think to myself, it looks fake. James Mangold did boast that they didn't shoot this movie in a soundstage. They actually went out on location and did real shit, which is fine, and I actually commend the filmmakers for making that decision. But still, in some of the action scenes, you could tell, like, that was not real. That was made with computer-generated imagery. Which, yeah, compared to the original trilogy, which came out in the 80s, the action scenes were, in fact, real. They were practical. There is a big contrast there, and you can definitely tell that in this movie, and it does deduct a couple of points. It just didn't really feel authentic. I mean, it's not like the Star Wars prequels where it was all shot in front of a green screen. No, of course not. But there were just some cracks in the armor. They didn't look great. They're not as bad as the visual effects in the Flash movie, but at the same time, not as good as the visual effects in Avengers Infinity War, for example. Also, just the fact that Indiana Jones, in his older age, is throwing down and beating people up anymore. I mean, I'm not saying that people in that age range can't do that, but with Harrison Ford in particular, and again, I mean no disrespect, but I just find it a little hard to believe. Ford was in his late 70s when they shot this movie, so you would think when Indiana Jones takes a sock across the jaw, it would hospitalize him. But no, it doesn't. He's totally fine. Which would have made sense if he were 40 years younger like he was in the original trilogy, but I don't know, seeing that now, I don't find it really believable. I mean, there are a lot of unbelievable elements in this movie. I will get to a big one in a minute, but older Indy taking a few hits and still being fine was another big one. But I will say I did enjoy the treasure hunting element of this movie. I mean, that's what Indiana Jones is, you know, unless it's Temple of Doom. Indiana Jones is supposed to be a globe-trotting treasure hunt adventure. And sure enough, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is a globe-trotting treasure hunt adventure. I enjoyed that. Yeah, you know, you get that map graphic where it shows the red line. Yeah, we get that in this movie, of course. I love that shit. We get to travel the world and see some really cool stuff, learn some really cool things about archaeology and world history. That's never bad, at least not to me. But then eventually this movie does make a decision. It makes a call. It says, okay, we're gonna do this. And I was like, okay, this is stupid. It's like, you remember when someone thought it would be a good idea to say, hey, let's have aliens in an Indiana Jones movie? Now, I'm not saying this movie gets that bad, but it did kind of remind me of that. It was this kind of out of left field thing. Well, not out of left field, but it was just so out there and bizarre. I'm, of course, not going to spoil it. And sure, all the Indiana Jones films do kind of have that touch of supernatural stuff, but in this movie, like Crystal Skull, I thought it was a bit much. That's all I'm going to say because, again, no spoilers, but I just really didn't like it. And it's definitely some major points off. And lastly, one of this movie's biggest merits, you know what it is. Yeah, it's the score. Composed by Maestro John Williams, of course, because he scored all the previous movies along with a lot of other awesome shit, so he had to do this one. And yeah, this score is awesome. There really is nothing quite like a John Williams score. It's got those staple strings, you know, with the ostinatos and motifs, that signature Indiana Jones Raiders March theme. I hummed along with it every time. Always great to hear. Always great to hear a John Williams score come in through big movie theater speakers. Yeah, that's just never a bad day. So props to good old Johnny W. You keep doing you, man. So in the end, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is a mixed bag for me. The action and the adventure, they're fun. It doesn't always make logical sense, nor does it have the best visual effects. But Harrison Ford is good, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is great, Mads Mikkelsen is Mads Mikkelsen. The movie makes a dumb decision towards the end, and the score is awesome. So my final verdict, I could take this movie or leave it. I'm neutral on it. In other words, for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, I will say, wait until this movie's at a discount price, then go see it. Which, again, far better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Which isn't saying much, I realize, but it is worth noting. So, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Have you seen it yet? What are your thoughts on it? And do you think this movie is better or worse than Crystal Skull? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!